And what we've discovered with these COVID lockdowns of the last 2 weeks is that the facilities are no longer functioning. So Apple has stopped.
Get ready for a wild ride, because this video could potentially shake up the investment world and make me the new Warren Buffett.
Why are you here again?
And you will never have to hear my voice again. Just kidding, I'd probably still do this as a day job. Anyways, Peter Zeihan, the man, the myth, the legend, has something to say about Apple and globalization, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. So let's dive right in. Peter Zeihan, a highly regarded geopolitical analyst, has gained recognition for his insightful opinions and forecasts regarding the future. In a recent interview with Jordan Harbinger, Zeihan addresses the topic of globalization and the profound changes he expects it will undergo in the near future. He then highlights the case of Apple, which is heavily dependent on Chinese manufacturers. I know because I have my AirPods right here and it says it's assembled in China, so I just fact-checked it. And also, Peter predicts that the company will have to rebuild its entire supply chain to become independent of China. As a savvy investor, it's essential to stay informed and have a thorough understanding of the market. And to gain insights into these important matters, we have to make sure to watch the full video from start to finish. So let's kick things off with a clip of Zeihan breaking down the intricate supply chain issue that Apple is facing.
The smartphone industry is probably simultaneously the most sophisticated and spread out in terms of globalization and manufacturing, and the most vulnerable.
That's why I picked it.
Yeah, fair enough. So the iPhone has 1,400 supply chain steps that touch 50 different countries. So you'll get the plastics probably from a precursor material that comes from the United States. You'll get the copper probably from Chile, but it's probably processed in China. It's probably built into an integrated circuit in Taiwan, with the design happening in California. And the system on a chip that kind of ties it all together is probably from Japan, but it is made out of components from throughout Southeast Asia, and so on and so on and so on. You miss one of these, you don't have a phone. And what what Apple has discovered under Tim Cook, Tim Cook was brought in to operationalize the supply chain to make it the most efficient it could be. And in doing so, 90% of those supply chain steps now in some way touch China. And what we've discovered with these COVID lockdowns of the last 2 weeks is that the facilities are no longer functioning. So Apple has stopped. I have a phone that I ordered 2 months ago that was supposed to be delivered 2 weeks ago, and now I've received a notice that it's probably not even been built yet.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that they were that far behind. I figured
they do have a facility in China with 100,000 people.
Wow.
And so, when that goes offline, do the math.
Yeah.
This is not the death of Apple. Mm-hmm. They've got billions in the bank. They can rebuild their supply chain in other places.
You already paid for the phone. They're fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a 5-year process. So this iPhone that I'm trying to get is probably the last one for a while, until they completely rebuild their supply chain so it's China free, because China is no longer a reliable manufacturing partner.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to have to do that in places they don't have operations. You don't do that overnight. You don't do that cheaply. And Apple will be doing this at the same time other sectors are trying to do the relocation at the same time.
Sure.
So because of demographic reasons, we have an absolute cap on how much labor we have available in the United States. Same with Canada. Mexico is in a better position, but there's still an upper limit. So everyone who's trying to nearshore or reshore or friendshore at the same time has to compete for an absolute upper limit of labor availability. And we're now seeing that happen across the entire manufacturing world.
According to Zeihan, Apple needs to undertake a comprehensive overhaul of their supply chain, which is projected to take 5 years and come at a significant cost. However, other firms are also seeking to diversify their supply chains away from China, leading to increased competition that may prolong the duration of the process beyond 5 years. But will the need to shift manufacturing facilities impact Apple's stock price and its market share in the personal computer and smartphone industries? We'll return to the topic of Apple as an investment case shortly, but first, let's delve into Zeihan's views on the future of globalization and what he envisions as the next stage, deglobalization. But before proceeding, kindly take a moment to absolutely annihilate the like button and subscribe to Profit Protection for weekly updates on market news and events. In order to understand Zeihan's concept of deglobalization, we need to examine the role of shipping. Shipping has been a vital component of the rapid expansion of globalization since the Cold War, but its infrastructure is notoriously delicate. And the pandemic, for one, brought to light just how fragile this infrastructure is. And another instance showcasing the delicacy of the system was the cargo ship which got stuck in the Suez Canal and caused a widespread shipment delay. Although I'm inclined to blame that on a mixture of human clumsiness and geography, since the Suez Canal has been the source of much conflict in the past simply because of, well, geography. But the vulnerability does not stop there. Freight needs protection, and Zeihan exemplifies how the US have been securing the shipment routes since the Cold War, and generally, ocean security has had a predominant effect on what became hyperglobalization. But since the US have retooled their navy, it's literally impossible for them to patrol the oceans, and with their abundant resources within North America, they have less of a dependence on globalization and fewer incentives to become involved in any future disruptions in shipping. If the US were to renounce their role as the ocean police, it will have a profound impact on globalization, as the safety of maritime travel would be severely compromised. But the biggest factor for deglobalization, Zeihan believes, is its demographics. Just take a look at this clip of Zeihan explaining this in more detail.
But probably the biggest reason is the third one, and that's demographics. When you urbanize and industrialize, and for most of the world they didn't start that in earnest until 1945, or in the case of the developing world until 1992, you move off the farm, you move into the town, and instead of working on a subsistence agricultural system, you now are getting a services, a manufacturing, or an industrial job. And that means you are living in condos or single-family homes or townhomes that are crammed together. And in that sort of environment, kids go from being free labor to just being expensive headaches, and you have fewer of them. Well, for the rich world, these transitions started 75 years ago. For the developing world, they started 40 years ago. You play that forward, and the world is literally running out of people aged 20 and under, and has for 20 years now, which means now most of the world is running out of people 40 and under. Well, the whole idea of trade, the whole idea of globalization is someone has to buy the stuff. Trade makes no sense if there's nobody on the other end of the sale.
So, according to Zeihan, the future is likely to be characterized by greater independence among countries, and the geographical resources within each nation will become increasingly vital to its growth and prosperity. If the world were to enter a period of deglobalization, companies like Apple, dependent on large global supply chains, would need to reevaluate and most likely restructure to prioritize local sources of materials and manufacturing. This would reduce the company's dependence on global trade and minimize the risks associated with supply chain disruptions. Now, let's return to the topic of Apple. Is Peter Zeihan right in his doomsday predictions for Apple, and what is the true extent of Apple's reliance on Chinese manufacturers? And most importantly, is Apple still a solid investment opportunity despite this possible massive disruption in their supply chain? A Reuters analysis from November of 2022 shed light on Apple's reliance on China's supply chain. Between 2014 and 2019, China was the primary location for 44 to 47% of the production sites of Apple's suppliers. This dependence has proven to be a challenge in recent years due to pandemic-related restrictions as well as the trade war between the US and China. But Apple has taken precautionary actions. As of 2021, they had managed to decrease their dependency on China from 47% in 2019 to 36% in 2021, and they've now increased their production and dependence on the US. Despite the challenges posed by the supply chain issue and its potential impact on Apple in the future, many investors still view Apple as a promising investment opportunity. This sentiment is shared by Morgan Stanley hardware analyst Eric Woodring. He's maintained his positive outlook on Apple, reiterating an overweight rating and top pick designation for the company's stock, though he has adjusted his target price down to $175, and despite Apple guiding down in this quarter, Woodring believes the long-term positive in Apple's Apple's recent report outweighs the short-term negatives. Woodring views the current supply chain issues faced by Apple as a temporary problem, not a demand issue, as indicated by strong lead times and below target inventory levels for the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. He notes that similar warnings of production disruptions due to the pandemic in 2020 resulted in a temporary dip in the stock, which then outperformed the market by 20% in the following 5 months. So, according to Zeihan, the supply chain problem for Apple is not the end for the company, but rather a costly and time-consuming challenge to overcome. Apple has already started the process of moving away from China and towards more local suppliers, like we saw in the report from Reuters. However, if deglobalization occurs as Zeihan predicts, all major companies, including Apple, will have to fundamentally change every aspect of their operations, and that will truly have an effect on the stock market as a whole. But what do you think? Are we headed for deglobalization? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more finance and investment videos. Until next time.